Welcome to Mini Stories, where we will be listening to the story that overly involved neighbor next door. When I moved into my cozy little house on Maple Street, I thought I'd found the perfect neighborhood. It was quiet, well-kept, and full of friendly faces, or so I thought. That was before I met Mr. Johnson, my next-door neighbor. From the moment I unpacked my first box, Mr. Johnson seemed to have an opinion on everything I did. "You know," he said one day, standing on the edge of my driveway, arms crossed, "the HOA expects lawns to be mowed to a certain standard." I hadn't even finished unpacking my lawnmower. If my garbage bins were out a minute past collection, he'd scowl and mutter as he walked by. If my porch light stayed on too late, I'd find a passive-aggressive note in my mailbox. It felt personal, and it grated on me. I started avoiding him, keeping my head down whenever I saw him puttering around his yard. But one rainy morning, everything changed. I was sipping coffee by the window when I saw Mr. Johnson struggling with his car. He turned the key, and the engine coughed but didn't start. Again and again, he tried, until finally, he slammed the door and stomped toward the bus stop, umbrella-less in the pouring rain. I should have felt vindicated. After all, he had made my life miserable, but instead, I felt something else. Pity. The man was clearly struggling, and I figured I could help, even if he wouldn't ask. That afternoon, I grabbed my toolbox and a new car battery from the store. After waiting for the street to quiet down, I swapped out his old, corroded battery for the new one. It wasn't much, but I hoped it would make his life a little easier. The next morning, I peered out the window as Mr. Johnson approached his car. He looked skeptical as he slid into the driver's seat, but when he turned the key, the car roared to life. For the first time ever, I saw him smile, a genuine, unguarded smile. It felt oddly satisfying. Over the next few weeks, I started noticing other little things. His mailbox was tilting dangerously to one side, so I fixed it one night. When his trash bins were left out too long, I quietly brought them to his garage. I even started leaving baked goods on his doorstep, anonymously, of course. At first, he didn't seem to notice, but slowly, his demeanor began to change. One afternoon, as I was watering my plants, Mr. Johnson called out, "Nice job on the lawn." It wasn't much, but it was the first compliment I'd ever heard from him. Then, one Saturday morning, there was a knock on my door. When I opened it, there stood Mr. Johnson, holding a pie. Found out what you've been doing," he said, looking a little sheepish. And, well, no one's ever gone out of their way for me like that before. We ended up sitting on my porch, sharing the pie and an awkward but heartfelt conversation. He told me about losing his wife years ago, how he'd become bitter and withdrawn because it was easier than being vulnerable. I shared my own struggles with loneliness, how I'd moved to Maple Street hoping to build a sense of community. That day was a turning point, not just for us, but for the entire neighborhood. Mr. Johnson began to change in ways I never thought possible. He organized a neighborhood barbecue, joined a local book club, and even started looking after my dog when I was out of town. His gruffness turned into a quirky charm, and people began to see him for the kind, thoughtful person he really was. And me? I found a friend in the most unexpected place. In the end, my quiet acts of kindness didn't just mend a broken fence between two neighbors, it built a bridge that brought our entire community together. The end. Thanks for watching. If you liked the video, like, comment, share, and subscribe.